Hello, my friends. This is your boy, Garrett J. White.
Your boy.
The founder of Wake Up Warrior and also CEO of DKW Styling. Welcome to the BMS Podcast, Big Money Stylist Podcast. We are coming at you live from the back seat of our car on the way to the Bruno Mars concert. And I've got the woman, the myth, the legend behind Natural Beaded Rose sitting here right next to me. And we are going mobile agile with this week's show. So we're going to come to Danielle, and Danielle's going to introduce a topic to us. We know the last couple of weeks here on the podcast, Big Money Stylist Podcast, we've given you some clips into some of our events. We have two more events this year happening. We've got our Big Money Stylist Mastermind event, over 300 artists happening here the end of November, and then we got a day space, and then after that we've got 360 brand new artists coming to the BMS convention, which is actually BMS Intensive. All of our small events are now gone for 2018. And in 2019, we will only be offering 3 events. 3 events open to the public. 3 events open to the public. One happening in the first quarter, second quarter, and third quarter of 2019. Minimum or maximum 300 artists per event. And all of the deep dive hands-on training that you want. So just know we're going to be releasing dates on. There's a lot of you who listen to podcasts who are wondering when's the next event going to be made available. We're going to be releasing those here in just the next couple of weeks. So Danielle.
I already forgot our topic.
Danielle, I'm going to give you our topic. Our topic is simple. You don't need a checklist. So I've listened to my wife go off about this over and over and over and over and over again. I'm going to hand her the mic here in just a second, and she's going to begin to set the stage for our podcast today as we're on our way to Bruno Mars concert at the Staples Center. So, Danielle, checklist. This is an irritating subject for you.
Okay, so I try not to be irritated because I look at every student. I look at every student and I think I was where you were at. So as much as I want to be irritated and be like, I can relate and I get it. One of the things we notice in our classes and in our education is people they sign up for a class, they pay the fee, and then they want the magical notebook of checklists of things to do to equal success. Like if I just handed them a playbook that if they did X, Y, and Z, then when they, a month later, that they would be successful. So it's just crazy to me because that's not how business works and that's not how it works. But the easy part is paying the money. The easy part is signing up for the class. The hard part is actually doing the work. And so people get confused, and the same thing goes with like software tools. Well, they'll buy all these tools, but then they're not using them, or they're like, why am I paying for this? Exactly. Why are you paying for it if you're not willing to figure out how to do the work? And so even with Inside, again, like we have a mastermind with over 300 students, and we pour so much education into our mastermind. We have a 3-hour live training weekly, and we have where we're inside the salon, we have business training, we have what we call hot seats. And I mean, it's almost to the point where it's too much education. I'm almost feeling like we need to dial it back in, because what's happening is people are paying for this education on a monthly basis, and then they'll come in and ask me simple questions like, Danielle, how do I get more leads? And I'm literally like, oh my God, like we are over delivering so much value to you guys right now. And even like the last education we did in our mastermind, we literally went over consultations and leads. Like, how are you asking me this question right now? And so I get so irritated, like that people think, Danielle, just come on, hand it over. Just why holding out on me? Just hand it over. And I'm thinking, like, we are teaching you everything. Like, we're teaching you everything. And if you're willing to do the work, you'll learn and figure it out as you go. And then all of a sudden you'll come back and do a class or be a part of education, and you'll be like, and things start clicking. But things don't start clicking until you do the work. So if you're paying for the education, that is the easy part. If you're paying for a monthly education program just to say you're cool, then stop fucking doing that. Like, do the work that's required, or just stop paying for it. Don't sign up for something if you're not willing to put in the work. So anyways, that's me kind of going off on my rant.
So this is why the entire training systems inside the hair world are taught the way they are. Because hairstylists have a problem. The challenge is very simple. One, they're slaves, trained in an industry and by a society that has said, you are not an artist, you are a slave. You will come in the days I want, you will work the hours I want, you will pay the price I want. I will negotiate with you, I will barter with you. I would never do this with my dentist, I would never do this with my cardiologist, I would never do this with my attorney, but I'll do this with my artist. And so as an artist, you become a slave behind the chair. A slave to the demands of society, working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, hustling, grinding, gone from your kids, and stressing out. So inside of the slavery game, you have a second game, which is slavery itself sets you up to look for a savior. And so most of the training inside of the hair world and most of the hair shows are there to entertain you, not to actually train you. Do you know why? Do you know why? Because you don't actually want to learn, you want to try to be saved.
Well, and you want to just be there to be cool. Like, it's like with social media is such a great tool, but it also can be, if you're not using it correctly, like it can also be like a big popularity contest. And it doesn't matter how many followers you have on Instagram. It doesn't matter how many followers you have on Facebook. If you're fucking broke, then you are a slave behind the chair. And by being a slave behind the chair, you are dying. There's so many artists in my industry, and I think this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, is because I literally see the life being sucked out of them. The art, the fun, the joy, the passion, everything being sucked out of them. It's not even like a regular 9-to-5 job. In fact, you could probably have more life in a regular 9-to-5 job. Like, stylists literally are slaving, and by slaving behind the chair are dying. And it's bullshit. It's done. And then they get a quick fix by people liking their photos, and then they go back to charging $40 for a haircut or whatever. So it's just ridiculous. And the other thing that we harp on is like, do your numbers and do the right numbers. I think that we inside of our program, we have what was called General's Tent, and we kind of go over in detail what people are making, because artists are so guilty of being like, oh yeah, I made like 10 grand last month. And you're like, well, did you actually do your numbers? Did you find out your cost of everything? Did you actually make that? Well, yeah, I think so. And then they do their numbers and they're like, shit, I made $4,000. And basically this dials into, I made $40 an hour, like working, if you're lucky, like let's say $20 an hour working 50 hours a week. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And so they get this high-end thing like, oh, I made this much money. And I'm like, did you do your numbers? Like, are you measuring your results off how tired you are the bags under your eyes, the pills you had to pop, the drinks you had to have? Like, where are we at with this? And so even with our program, like it's finding your balance and finding your rhythm and refusing to slave behind the chair or hiding behind popularity. You have to get results or the art is no longer fun. And it just affects every area in your life.
So this conversation of checklists, which is what started our show today, gets played out inside this slavery game. So if I'm operating as a slave, then I'm looking for a savior. Please save me from my slavery. Becomes the request. It's not even like a verbal request. It's not like you're deliberately asking for this. It's just what ends up happening. So then you end up going to classes, to hair coloring classes, cutting classes. You end up going to extension classes. You go to all these conventions. You go to whatever. Continue education, hoping for some kind of magic formula. It's like asking for a color formula with hair. You can give the same color formula to 20 artists. The exact same color formula. It's a recipe. Here's a recipe for this color sequence that you just saw demonstrated by a platform artist on stage. You see this, but a slave looks at that checklist and doesn't see the actual art around the science of the checklist. Here is the formula, yes, but what you didn't see was the intuitive knowledge of that artist and the intuitive nature of that artist to be able to move and ebb and flow in and out of the formula. You didn't see the cream in between each of the steps. You didn't see what was going on because you were looking at the checklist instead of using the checklist as a framework and a guide. You use a checklist as commandments to salvation. Here is exactly the formula. Well, my color didn't turn out that way. Well, it didn't turn out that way because every head is not the same. Every hair is not the same. Everything about the artist is not the same. The conditions of the art, the conditions of the artist, they are constantly changing. And so while you search for the checklist and while you search for the thing that you think will set you free, this magical checklist in the sky, whether it's color formulas, whether it's marketing formulas, whether it's sales systems or sales scripts, all of these can assist, but they won't actually set you free. And so we'll watch as artists attempt to find salvation inside of these checklists. Well, give me the exact formula to set myself free. And it's very simple. I'll give it to you right now on the podcast. You want to start marketing, it's very simple. There are 4 things you need to do every single day. We call them the daily 4. It's not magical. 1, live stream video every single day. 2, elite photos of your work before and after every single day. 3, audios, either through podcasting or through communication with clients every single day. 4, you've got your video, you've got your audio, you've got your picture, and now you've got your text, which is either using your Facebook page as a blog or using an actual blog or writing email copy. You must do these 4 things every single day. Video live stream, photos every day, video live stream every day, text every single day, audio every single day. And then out comes the slavery. The slave says,
I don't have time.
What is the checklist? So then I tell them, it's very simple. Live stream video every day, 5 minutes or less. 2, pictures every single day of your work and of you as an artist. 3, audios every single day. 4, text posts every single day, written in direct response nature, headline, subheadline, body copy, call to action, every single day. But Garrett, I don't have enough time. And then the question comes back again like a month later. Well, how do I get leads? You're like, okay. So the challenge is you want to be free, but you're so busy being a slave, you can't actually hear nor do what's actually required to set yourself free. And so even though I give you the checklist, you still come back and not do it and then ask me for the magic pill to set you free. So why is this like in your mind? Like, why do artists are operating like this?
It's so funny too. Like with everything you do, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, the better you get. Like reps. Why are you good at hair? Because you're fucking slaving behind the chair every day. You're repping. So like you have to have reps with marketing. You have to have reps with direct calls to action. You have to have reps with photos. Like you have to have reps with styling. Like you'll get a really good colorist and they're like, oh, my work sucks. I'm like, because you suck at photos and you suck at styling. So it's like you have to learn reps in all the areas to kind of do it all. It's just crazy to me. Yet it's like we give them the steps and they're like, but like I don't get it. And so it's so funny too. I remember when I was building like what I had called my funnel. My funnel, if you go to dkwstylingsalon.com, this is what a funnel is. It's a series of videos that converts the mindset.
BigMoneyStylist.com.
Or you can go to bigmoneystylist.com. And it's a series of videos that converts the mindset. And if you go through and you watch it, you may understand this. But in the beginning, I was guilty of this. Like every stylist I was that stylist. It was like, I'm doing it. And then you have to take this like hard look at yourself and be like, okay, maybe I'm not doing the videos. Okay, well, I only did one last week. No, every single day. I remember when I first stepped into like Instagram and marketing and just social media and all that stuff, I remember thinking like, this is exhausting. I have to do this every day. And then it became the new norm. It was like, no, this is part of my business. This is like something I do every single day. And it's not like I do this and I'm like, oh, I'm good for a week. Oh, I'm good. Like, would you do hair one day a week and be like, oh, I'm spent. I did really good that one day and I'm done for the week? No. And the same goes with marketing. Like you have to get reps in. You have to get reps. I don't know how to more clearly communicate it, but you need reps. So it's just, I don't know. It's just interesting.
So then the question becomes, well, what do you do? If you're stuck in this trap of being a slave and you're stuck in this trap of looking for a savior and you're stuck in this trap of constantly searching for someone to bail you out, what do you do? How do you deal with this?
Oh, I have something I have to
Oh, Danielle has something else. Here it comes.
Okay, so one thing I was going to tell you guys that I kind of got lost in my own thoughts, but it's so funny. So I reopened my shadowing program. I started my education with my shadowing program. I think I charged like $600 for my first shadowing client. I now charge $10,000 to come down and shadow with me. I only take a select amount of people. There's a huge interview process. And anyways, I recently had a shadowing student come down with me and we did some video work. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now you got to do a call to action. And she's like, like literally like went into panic mode. And I'm like, no, listen, it's not that big of a deal. You're overthinking it. Are you running a business? Yes or no? And she's like, well, yes. I'm like, okay, then just act like you're running a business and give them a call to action. She's like, well, I don't know. I'm like, all you have to say is like, hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. If you want more information on Natural Beauty Rose, what I want you to do next is click on the link below this video. It's like as simple as that, but like we freeze up because we are in the mindset of like, I'm an artist, I'm not a marketer. But the more you tell yourself, I'm a marketer, I'm a businesswoman, I'm a marketer, I'm a businesswoman, I'm a marketer, I'm a businesswoman, or man, then all of a sudden with reps, you're like, it's second nature. It's second nature. It's like when you go in and you can like do hair with your eyes closed because it's second nature. And the same goes with every other skill set that follows up behind the art.
So I'm going to give you a little strategy. Ready? Here comes a little strategy. So one of the reasons why a list can feel overwhelming when you're super stressed out and you're a slave behind the chair is because you're trying to do too much at once. So you look at it and you've got this checklist, and let's say we talk about this in the marketing play. We say you got to do a daily video every single day. You've got to do an audio every single day. You've got to do pictures every single day. You've got to do text every single day. Daily 4 has to happen every single day. That's why it's called daily. If it was weekly, then it would be weekly, but it's not. It's called daily 4. Video, photo, text, image. Video, photo, text, image. Daily 4, daily 4. Not complicated at all. But you step back and you're like, man, listen, I'm already slammed. I got kids. I'm married. I've got my salon. I've got my clients. I got my stuff. I'm busy. There's a lot of shit that I'm doing right now. And you're stressed out about it, and I get it. But inside of it, you say, okay, well, what can I do? Instead of trying to conquer all 4, you pick one. And you begin to build a process known as micro wins. Okay, micro wins is an actual strategy that you use to assist with military training. It's also something that happens inside of business, in big business, and in big companies. Which is you have these big visions for change, but the problem is you can't move this big business very quickly if you try to just make it move in one big swoop. So what you do is you have micro goals or benchmarks, which are you take one thing on. For example, you might take photos and you say, for the entire month, I'm going to master the game, at least get better at the game of pictures. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm not going to try to do video, audio, text every single day. I'm going to just do video. I'm just going to do image. I'm not going to do any video. I'm not going to do audio. I'm not going to do any text. And so I'm going to study every single day. I'm going to study for 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to study pictures. And this is what happens inside of the Big Money Stylist Mastermind program, is the ability to study the curriculum with us and to go deeper. But let's take the photos down. You say, okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this week I'm going to work just on lighting. And I'm going to just practice lighting. And my win this week, yes, I didn't do my daily 4. And yes, I may have taken pictures that still didn't look that great. But I did pictures this week and I won. Every week you sit down in your general's tent, which is a Sunday conversation with you and yourself, sitting and reviewing your numbers and your work for the week. You sit back, you celebrate. Okay, this week I did great. I did 6 pictures, 7 pictures this week. I took my photos, I worked on my lighting got better. And now you set them another micro goal. You say, okay, this week I'm going to work on my lighting again. And you progress again for another week in the game of just lighting. You're like, well, Garrett, I'm not doing my daily 4. You're like, no, you're not doing your daily 4, but you're doing a micro win. You have this macro game called daily 4, but you're doing this micro win called mastering your photos. So you take the pictures again, but now you start to recognize at the end of the next week that your artist is the problem. So now you've got lighting issues handled, but you're going to spend the next 2 weeks working on just getting your model, your client, to actually stand in a way where the pictures look appealing. Because the posing of your current student or your posing of your client doesn't look that great. So you have this process of just micro wins down this process of slowly taking down a piece at a time. Now, you have something to say on this?
Well, it's so funny. I think in the artist world, and I've talked about this in the past, of the artist ego. And it's like it's almost like we have these goggles on. Like, we love our clients, and like in the moment, we're like, oh my God, this is awesome. Your color, your cut, like everything is like spot on. I killed it. But a photo doesn't lie. Like, when I started taking photos of my work, I literally was like, oh God, like that blonde piece that didn't connect, or this cut is it looks too extension-y. Like, we need to shadow the ends more. I became a better artist because I began to submit to the process of like, I have to become a better marketer and better at photos. And so there's so many artists that like think they have this kind of like ego, like, oh my God, I smashed it. But in the game of hair, it's something that's always evolving. Like your art can always get better. Art is not, or hair is not like riding a bike. It's not like if you stop for a bit, you can get back on and you're like, oh, look how good I am. Like it doesn't work that way. You have to constantly stay with the trends and constantly learn new techniques and new formulas and new placement and new, like, just because you've been doing hair for 30 years doesn't mean shit anymore. Like it just doesn't. And I get to this point where I'm like, because I've been doing hair for probably 16 years now, but even then I'm coaching women that have done hair for 5 years, 2 years, 3 years, 15 years. And then I have women that have been doing hair for 30 years, but I have so many reps and I'm willing to honestly look back at my work and critique it and like learn and grow from it. And I think that that's what sets me apart. And I think that that's why even like my stylists kind of think I'm crazy, because I'm like, guys, it's good, but could it be better? Like I always go in with the mindset of like, could it be better? What are the top people doing? What are the top salons doing? What are the top in the industry doing? And it's kind of like letting go of that ego, diving back in and staying current with your skill sets and being able to realistically like look at your photos and be like, okay, could it be better? And that's what continues to push me to grow even in business and everything I do.
So you have a challenge in this, and the challenge, one of the big challenges is actually killing the story that you don't have time. The one thing about time is that you will do whatever you're committed to. You have time for whatever you're committed to, and nothing more. Nothing more. If you tallied up with that new update on your iPhone, how many hours you spent on Instagram doing nothing, fucking around, you tallied all that time up, and then you try to tell me you don't have time to do things like Daily 4. You're like, well, I don't have time to do Daily 4. No, well, it appears according to your iPhone that you have time to fuck around on your phone for an extra hour and a half every single day. Total that up for a week, 7 hours, plus another 3. That means you got 10 plus hours of fucking around on Instagram for every single week.
What could you have done in those 10 hours?
Exactly. I gotta sneeze.
Oh, here. He's gonna sneeze. The bottom line is, like, what could you have done in that 10 hours? I think I get it. Like, you're behind the chair. You're slaving. You're dying. You're not slaving. You're just dying right now. And you're sedating just to, like, chill out. So what if in that moment of sedation you were like, this fucking sucks. And you used your time more effectively. And you worked a little bit on your marketing. You worked a little bit on your photos. You worked on your numbers. You stopped living in the slave land and decided to change something. I'm always surprised with how long people will live in this game of just hustle and slavery. I mean, it could be like a decade, 20 years, 30 years. I know, because I'm training stylists that have been in the game for 35 years, and they come to me and they're just like, I love the art, but I'm just fucking done. And they get to this point where they literally are like, either I quit hair or I do something else, but they love it. So if you're going to continue to do the art, then change something or stop bitching about it. Like, if change something. And if you're not willing to do something about it, then maybe step into another career.
The sneeze session is over. I am now back. So you could change and do something else, but here's the curse. If you change and do something else, but you don't figure out this routine, guess what you're going to repeat? You're just going to do the same shit somewhere else. So you could go from being a hairstylist to becoming a massage therapist, and it wouldn't matter. You would still do the same shit. You would end up a slave. So you're like, okay, well, how do I handle this then? Well, the first thing I have to do is I have to change the story. The story has to go from I don't have time to what can I do? Like, I don't have time, or I can't do it, or I don't have enough time in the day, to, okay, well, what can I do? And that's where micro goals come in, where we may deliver a list of, here's the checklist of what needs to happen. You may sit and look at coloring. You know, I like to listen to people trying to become master colorists, so they get fascinated by how Danielle does the color, because ultimately the color is what blends natural bead to rose. It's the ability to color the natural hair of the client. It's also the ability to color the hand-tied hair, being able to color both to match, and then get a seamless blend in the way they're both colored and cut. Well, each one of those processes have an entire framework or checklist. And so people say, well, what's the list? What's the checklist? And we can give you the checklist. Here's the formula. Here is the color sequence. Here's how you need to psychologically think through this. Here's how the cut goes. Here is the sequence. Here is the framework. Here are the checklists. But again, it's overwhelming because of a story, but also it's overwhelming because you keep taking it on as a macro conversation. You're trying to eat the entire elephant all at once, instead of saying, hey, what I'm going to start on is the back left leg, and I'm going to have one bite of it today, and I'm going to master one step along the way. You have something to say on this?
Well, I just noticed with myself, like I'm a super committed, consistent person. Like I get really, really, really crazy focused, and I can sustain for a really, really long time. And I used to think I was just crazy, and then I realized that's kind of my blessing, is I just tunnel vision, and I'm like, yeah, you don't see me coming, but I'm in it for the long play. But it's interesting too, because I think a lot of good artists, we discredit like some of the things we're really, really good at. And even this last week, it's funny because sometimes I forget like how much experience and how many reps I've had until I go to train, and I like do little things where I'm like, oh my God, that's what sets me apart. That's what's different. And that's why all these little details shows to me even like reps are working. Like I discredit my own experience until I put my place in it where I'm teaching, and I'm like, oh wow, yeah, wow. So it's cool to look back when you feel like the day-to-day reps, you're like, I don't know, is it working, is it not? And then all of a sudden you have these moments where you're like, yeah, I'm fucking badass, So I think it's just, it's cool to strive for more, but also understand like the growth that you've made on a personal level. Like acknowledge that, and acknowledge that you're ready for change, and then acknowledge your growth as well.
One of the things I'm most excited about heading into 2019 with the Big Money Stylist program is the new launch of the evolution of our curriculum, which is like the third major overhaul of the curriculum of Big Money Stylist, which works both with your work behind the chair as well as in front of the chair. And it's been broken down into this actual training format, which is micro and macro. So we've got macro courses that sit inside of each aspect of what's required behind the chair, in front of the chair as a businessman or woman, as well as being an artist behind the chair. But it breaks down the macro course, which is here is the topic of color, but then it breaks it down into micro courses that sit inside of those with curriculum that allows an artist to move at the speed they're ready to move, so that you can accomplish this. So you actually have the ability to slow it down a little bit. Why does coming to a live course or coming to the shadowing program, which nbrfasttrack.com, if you're interested in looking at that, it is a $10,000 investment. We did have over 130 applications. We only accepted 4 people in 2018, but we are going to be opening that up in 2019. And if that's you and you'd like to come spend 3 days with Danielle and myself in a very deep dive experience, both business and inside of your hair game, well, head to nbrfasttrack.com. For the rest of you, like the game is ultimately about coming to the first course and getting into the Big Money Stylist lifestyle by coming and testing it out. Again, sold out for 2018, but we'd love to have you at one of our events in 2019. If you're not on our email list at bigmoneystylist.com, I would head over there, complete an application. All the applicants, over 2,000 over the last 3 or 4 months that have come in that are waiting for seats to be released for 2019 schedule. I'd love to make sure that you're on that too, so that when we send the release, you can secure one of those tickets, because home study courses to the public are never happening from us ever again. And inside of the way this podcast operates, all of the curriculum I'm talking about is available in micro format, set up in targeted goals for you to move and complete the assignments at the speed you are ready to go, surrounded by a group of artists who can support you to get across the finish line. So I'm going to take final thoughts to Danielle, and she's going to wrap up our show today and bring us to a conclusion on this idea of the checklist.
The checklist. The checklist is overrated. Find value in the small consistencies throughout your day. That's it. Like, stop overthinking it. Stop feeling like, oh my God, I gotta do so much. If I gave you a checklist, you would be overwhelmed. And if you can't do the small shit, how do you think if I gave you a playbook that you would actually follow it? How do you think that you would follow it? You would not. So start with the simple shit that's consistent, and then be patient. Do the work, be patient. And if you get to that place, I can promise you'll see results. I am now almost 8 years into my brand, and I finally feel like I'm hitting a tipping point. And I'm like, oh my God, like so many times when I was like, I can't do this, I don't want to do this, I got kids, mommy guilt setting in, who am I, who the fuck do I think I am, what's going on, this is not going anywhere. And finally I'm at a tipping point where I'm like, fuck you. Like, I knew this was possible. And I think that people quit before they get started, because you got to be patient. And if you're not willing to be patient, then you're not going to get the results that you're looking for. So stay consistent with every small detail.
That's all we got for you this week. Again, make sure to join our list at bigmoneystylist.com, and you have completed an application for one of our upcoming events. Again, there are only 3 live events available to the marketplace, available in 2019. Head to bigmoneystylist.com, get your application filled out. We will be releasing the first 300 seats to the first event in Q1 of 2019 here in less than 2 weeks. If that's you, you know what to do. Otherwise, I'm going to cough real quick as we finish this show, and we're going to see you guys next week.
Wait, one last thing.
You can't keep one last singing.
Last. This is not, if you guys are listening to this podcast and you are a hairstylist, you have to understand this is not another certification. This is not another hand-tied method that you're just going to go learn and put on social media to be popular. We're after results, and we've proven that what we have to offer is actually working. So if you want results and you're willing to do the work, you know what to do.
That's all we got for you. We're going out to Bruno Mars to the Staples Center. Have a great night. We'll see you guys next week.